very simple shooting a bullet script that we're going to look at now. So what I've got here, I'm going to do this for a few different games. So I've got my car test one. And where's it gone? There it is. So I'm going to make it so that when I push spacebar maybe, or control, it shoots a bullet out the front of the car. So what I'm going to need first is a sprite. Oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Create sprite. Edit sprite. I'm going to make this one pretty small, so I might make it 8 by 8. Click OK. Go into this, and I'll zoom in on it. I'm going to use the circle tool here, so I might pick a outside color of red and inside color of yellow. Start in the top right, and there's a very average looking bullet. Tick. SPR bullet, and click OK. So I need an object to go with that as well. So obj bullet. And this object is going to have a create event associated with it. So add event create. And as soon as it's created, what it's going to do is it's going to start. Actually, there's a better way to do this. We're just going to delete that for now and click OK. I think I might make this bullet actually bounce off something. So add event collision with the wall. I'm just going to make it bounce. There should be an option to bounce. This one here will bounce. I'm going to make it bounce against all objects. So when it collides with the test wall, it's going to bounce against that. And I'll click OK. That's my bullet. That's done. Going back to my car, I'm going to need to add in an event, and I'll do this on both of them. The code. Actually, you can probably figure out the code by yourself. Here we go, add event, keyboard, I'll make it control. And when I push the control, what I'm going to do is create moving, bullet, XY of 0, speed, I need to give the bullet a speed to move at. So it's going to have to be faster than the car, or else I'll be driving with it. So I might make it 16. And the direction is going to be the direction of the car. So I just type the word direction in there again. So remember, direction is a special variable that holds the direction that the car is in. It can be either 0 all the way up to 360. And it's going to be relative. So that means that it's 0, 0, of where the car is, not in the top left corner of the screen. So I should be able to test that out now. And if I push control, nothing happens. That's because I've still got my code car in this room. I'll put the original test car in. Okay. And now I've got those bullets. They are actually bouncing off the walls. And you'll notice that if I hold the control key down, I kind of get an unlimited number of bullets happening here. And there's lots of them. Alright, so I haven't really told it to ever die. So let's say I want it to die after 3 bounces. So it can bounce 3 times, or I'll actually set a timer on this bullet. So I'm going to have add event, let's say add event create. So when this bullet is created, I'm going to set an alarm for it. And this is the number of steps. Remember, there's roughly 30 steps in a second. So if I want it to stay on the screen for 3 seconds, that's going to be 90 steps. So we're going to set the alarm to 0. We're also going to set bounces to 0 as well. Then I'm going to add the step event. And all the step event is going to do is check if bounces is equal to 3 or larger than 3. I'm going to destroy this object. Destroy instance self. Now what's happening here is when I create it, I'm setting a variable called bounces to 0. And then in the step events, every frame, I'm just checking if the bounces variable is larger than 3. At the moment, this will not ever be true because I've not actually told it to increase bounces, but I can do that here. So under control, it's going to bounce against all objects. I'm going to set variable bounces to 1 relative. Click OK. The other way I could do that is value bounces plus 1 and untick the relative, and that's essentially the same thing. So I'll just set it to 1 relative to its current value and click OK. So now it should do 3 bounces, and I'll just check. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So it stops after that. So I can spray those bullets everywhere, and eventually they will just die. The other thing I can do is set it so that when that alarm goes off, because at the moment we're counting down, add an event, alarm 0. So when it reaches that, it's also going to destroy that object. So that's main2, destroy instance self. So now I've got 2 options. I might set this to maybe 60. That's 2 seconds instead. So you'll see I can spray all these bullets, and then they're gone after a certain amount of time. Now we don't want it to be able to constantly spray bullets out, or at least I don't here. You might want to in your game, it's up to you, but I'm going to show you how to change it so that it's not constantly spraying bullets. So let's look at test car. Now there are a few different ways we could do this. First I'm going to change this event to key press control. Now that'll solve a lot of our problems, because now I've got to actually push the control button to shoot it, so I can't just spray an infinite range. But the next thing I want to do is when I push control, I'm going to count to see how many bullets are already on the screen. So maybe we can only have a maximum of 3. And that's this one here, test instant count, under the control tab. So I drag that in, check for bullets. Maybe let's go 3 is smaller than 4. Or smaller than 3 actually. No, it's smaller than 4. Okay, so if the number of instances is a value which is smaller than 4, create the bullet. So now I can only create 3 bullets. 1, 2, 3, or 4 bullets actually. And as soon as those disappear, then I can make more. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got some bullets that can bounce around. They don't last forever. I've only got a limited number that can be on screen at once. And that's all looking pretty good. I can drive around, I can shoot. Okay, so let's look at how to do, I'll do that in code in a separate video, but for now let's look at the other example here. So what we've got in our other one, I'll just recent files, grid movement. We've got our platformer. So this is our platformer here, push control to jump, and I hope this is not the one that I tried to. Oh yeah, I made it so you can slide down the walls, but that's the coded version, so we'll look at that later. And I will just open up and make sure we've got the normal guy in here. So the normal guy can run around like this, he can jump up, and so on. Alright, so that's our normal guy. What we're going to do is make sure that he can also shoot. So we're going to make this spacebar. It's going to be very similar. I'll just create a sprite. Edit sprite, new 8x8. We'll do the same style as before. So left, and I'm actually clicking the right mouse button to select the right color up there. Zoom in with the mouse wheel. And SPR bullet. And make an object for that bullet. Add event. We'll do the same alarm this time. Alarm 0. Create. So when it's created, sets an alarm to 60. We won't worry about the bounces. and sets. When it gets to 0, it destroys itself. We'll also make it when it collides with a wall, it destroys itself. So it can't shoot through walls, and also the bullet's only on screen for, how long did I say? 2 seconds. We could change that to 45, 1.5 seconds, and you could do all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be a bullet. You could make like a little axe that just throws out in front. It doesn't go very far, kind of like the original Legend of Zelda, where you could, if you had full health, you could throw your sword. If you didn't, you just kind of stabbed right in front of you. So we've got, then we've got to go into here, add an event, key press, space. Now here's where I need to decide, and I'm going to have to add in some other code in here. So when I click create, I'm going to create a variable called facing, and its value is going to be, we'll make it right to start with. So the value is going to be, actually it's probably going to give me an error. I'm just going to make it 0 is going to be left, 1 is going to be right. So we'll make it facing 1. Then when I push space, I'm going to check facing equal to 1, facing equal to 0. So if facing is equal to 1, we're going to create a bullet at 0, 0 relative, traveling at speed 12, in direction 0. Okay, so 0 is to the right, remember? And if facing is equal to 0, then we're going to make it go in the other direction, 180, because he's going to be facing left. So 0, 0, speed 12, relative, did I say relative there? Yep. So the only thing that's really changed on both of these is the direction that the bullet is going to be created moving. Now under the left and right key, what I want to do is change the direction that he's facing as well. So he's already facing that, he's moving in here, but I'm going to change var facing to 0 if he pushes left, and if he pushes right, the player, facing is going to be equal to 1. So now when I push left, it changes the variable facing to 0. If I push right, it sets the variable facing to 1. If I push space, it checks. If facing is equal to 1, we create a bullet going right. Else, if face is equal to 0, we create a bullet going left. And so I should be able to bring that up here. Facing right, facing left. Now that's giving us another issue, as it kind of appears to be coming out of his head at the moment. So if you want to change that, you're going to need to change the center of the shape, which is here. So if I click center, it picks the center of the shape, but wherever you can click up here and change it. It may affect other things if you do that. So I'm just going to do that, and you'll see now that the bullet comes out a bit lower. Also, the center of the bullet is up in the top left, so if I want it to be centered on that and come direct, that's the wrong game, come directly out of the center. Center that. That's better. Now it's coming out of the center of the player. It's actually spawning behind him. And I can have unlimited bullets in this one, but you can see they don't go through the walls. If I jump down here, they don't go through the walls, they stop. They also stop, they should do, after 45 steps. They might not. We'll make them a bit shorter. Alarm 0, we might make that 25 just to test it. Yep, so it doesn't actually go all the way. So if I make it shorter, it's not going to throw it or shoot it as far. So that's that one. And now for the top down one, which I'm just going to use this same example here for, but I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to put in our top down test player. And I'll just hit play to test the game. So remember, he's the grid based movement guy. If you don't like the way this is grid-based, you can always just remove these here. This bit that checks if it's aligned with the grid. If you remove those, you'll have pretty much free movement, and you'll be able to, it'll still work just fine. If you remove those, you'll be able to have kind of free movement, and that's pretty cool because then you can kind of move around the grid as you wish rather than being stuck to the grid. I quite like the grid-based movement. It's quite cool for dungeony type games, but let's do a bullet on this guy here. It's pretty much the same as the platformer one, except what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 4 different facing events. So when he starts, variable facing, we'll make it equal to 1, so he's facing to the right, and we'll just kind of work off a clockwise thing. So 1 is right, 2 is down, 3 is left, 4 is up. We'll work like that. So when I go right, we're going to put a variable here, facing 1. Doesn't matter if it's not inside here. I could do it inside there, but it won't really matter. And then we got down, I said was facing 2. And then left was facing 3. So all I'm doing is using a number to keep track of where he's actually facing. And so there's a lot of problem solving that goes into this. You could do it many other ways. You could actually just check the direction. I'll try that in a second. We will just ignore these facing variables for the time being. But let me go add event, key press, control. And let's say, because he should only be facing one of 4 different directions, so I may not even need that. So let's go bullet, X, Y, relative, speed, 12, direction. Let's just try typing in direction and click OK. So let's see what happens. If I push control, it faces to the right. Oh yeah. So I didn't need all those facing variables. I can just pick the direction. That's because he's only ever going to be facing one of 4 directions. However, whenever he stops, he always goes back to facing the right, which is a problem. But that is nothing that can't be fixed. So whenever I push no key, I can always start moving in a direction. So that's the problem there. If I just turn that off and set speed to 0, I think it won't reset his direction that he was facing. Oh no, it just keeps on going forever. So that's not right. I will just quickly put in the other ones. So start moving in a direction and put that in. Sorry, no key. Make sure that he does stop. And so I've got all these variable facing. Press control. This is going to be the better way to do it anyway. And just check that variable. If facing is 1, then create a moving instance going in direction 0. That's to the right. And I can copy these now. Control C and just paste them underneath it. It's kind of a bit weird when you paste these things in. You might have to move things around. So there's 4 of them. That one's going to the right. If facing is equal 2, I want it going down. So down is 270. If facing is equal 3, I want it going left. So that's 180. And if facing is equal 4, I want it going up. So that's 90. Now I'm going to just change the test player center to 0 to 16 by 16, and also the center of the bullet to 4 by 4. So it actually fires out the center. And now that I've stopped, he's still shooting left. If I move up 1, he's still shooting up. One slight problem that I have is now, because my center of my character is snapped, it's moved everything down. So I'll just have to change this back to 0, 0. Or the other option is to change all of these to snapping on the center as well. So I'll change that back to there, and with the test player, whenever it creates it, I'm just going to make it 8, 8 instead. 8, 8. So that's going to move it to the center. Because the shape is 32 by 32, it might actually need to be 16 by 16 instead, but we'll just check and see if 8, 8 works. Okay, so it does need to be 16 by 16, but you can see it's not firing from the top left corner anymore. It's firing from just a little bit down. So if I change it to 16 by 16, and once again, this is all prototyping. So all this stuff that I'm doing right now is testing to see what the proper values are. You're not going to get it right first time around, and this is what you're actually being assessed on, whether or not you can figure out what the best values are. It doesn't matter if you get stuff wrong, as long as you take the time to actually figure out why it's wrong and what can you do to fix it. So now it's firing from the center. Okay, so just a few values changed, thinking about if this is a 0, 0 and it's 32 wide, well, what's the center of this square? It's obviously going to be 16 by 16. That's the center of the square. That's where I want to create the bullet. Because you saw when I tried to change the center of the square to, I'll just do it again, to 0, 0. Well, now it's not actually inside these squares because you can see the center is snapped to those corners. So that's what you've got to be aware of. And I'll just pop that back there, 0, 0. And now it's over there, snapped into those grids. All right, so that's how we can make a simple bullet. The code will be a separate video for this one because this video is already 20 minutes long.